been a while, so I guess it's been like 2 months. Thank you so much if you're tuning in, and if you're a subscriber, I appreciate you. And if not, please subscribe and don't forget to like the YouTuber things. So I am so glad to be here. So glad that you're watching this video. Thank you so much. You mean a lot to me. With ALS, I have had increased fatigue, and the spasticity has been pretty difficult the past several months, which causes pain. I've had a slight progression. My lower half of my body is much weaker. Standing and walking for a period of time causes me physical pain, so I still use a cane at times. I have a walker and electric chair. I was advised by my ALS clinic to use the power chair towards the end of the day, not to overexert. But I'm a stubborn old thing, you know, it's the whole nursing thing, you know, use it till you lose it. You know, my school in nursing, the foundation was Dorothea Orum's, you know, self-care. So, it's been a lot. I've had good things. I've got a second grandbaby coming, and apparently the millennials, the second baby, is not a baby shower, it's a baby sprinkle. It's just so special. My oldest is a millennial. My youngest is an alpha, and she's like, it should be shower. It's like, but she keeps correcting me. It's a sprinkle, not a shower, Mom. It's a sprinkle. Oh my. So, let's see. February ended out. I had some advocacy things and went to the state and talked to state legislators or their staff, usually. You get the state legislator if they are pro-gun safety, and you get staff usually if they are supported by the gun manufacturers and the gun lobbies. But shared my story, and it seemed to be very impactful, which is wonderful. I mean, it's a difficult story, and right now with everything that's going on, you know, gun violence and gun safety is not the biggest priority, right? Living in the United States as a person that's disabled with a terminal disease, watching what's going on in Washington is heartbreaking. I finished out the physician aspect of the artful LLFDS study, which I've been in for 6 years, prior to my diagnosis of ALS the year before, because my father had FTD and MND, and I had an uncle that had ALS with FTD symptoms at that time. And Philadelphia, at UPenn, I had watched the FTD forum because it was such a rare disease, and they started this study. So I wrote an email, came back, tested that I was positive for C9, and shortly after, my symptoms, well, after a car accident, head trauma. If you're C9 or 72, head trauma is a danger. And if you just have plain sporadic ALS, if you have any neurological injury, falls, head injuries, that can lead to progression. So I have not had a significant fall. Former klutz, graceful, well, not so graceful anymore, but at least I can still have the way to cushion my falls. You know, once watched a movie or a documentary that showed how stunt performers fall, and I'm like, oh, that's the way I fall. I've fallen so much in my life, and so my balance was always a little sketchy, but it got worse when I got ALS. When I was a child, I had large motor delay, so the gifts of being a child of Agent Orange, I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but it's true. So did that, and found out through the staff there that, everyone's concerned about the cuts from the national HHS. It's very disheartening about some of the cuts they've done. Honestly, today, April 5th, there's going to be a nationwide protest, hands off our Social Security and Medicare. So hopefully there are no more cuts, and hopefully there's money going for neuro research. They cut for Parkinson's, they cut for rare diseases, they cut for Alzheimer's disease. And my concern is that if we lose these scientists, if we lose this funding for research, the beautiful thing that I have been in this program, MRIs, spinal taps and giving spinal fluid, all the testing that I've done, trying to make that research so they have the fodder. They just discovered C9orf72, 2011, 2012, it was announced, and I had no known of the causes. They did know at the time when my father was diagnosed there may be genetic causes, and that was in 2008 when he got the diagnosis. He died in 2010, March. So knowing that, I wanted to find the beast that got my dad, found it, and I'm trying to put the information in so they can find potentially medications or a cure. So finding out with one of the doctors that some of the medications that they have been looking at have come out of this study, like the Koya 302, which who knows if that funding for that testing for the Healy platform is going to be affected. There's lots of effects, these cuts and things. Well, let's do these cuts to help prevent fraud and waste so we can give billionaires tax cuts. I have a lot of opinions on that. So stressed. This has been the season of my grief. Sister's birthday, mom's death, mom's birthday, dad's death. Just, a lot of those emotions. And on top of being someone that I would call a federalist here in this country, for 30 years, I have voted and tried to support things that would keep our federal system okay. I've tried to work on the state, and since Citizens United passed, our country has only gotten more gerrymandered, and in some places, voter suppression. It has been very difficult. So seeing what's happening now, to me, I don't want to get too political. It's just been very sad. Knowing that potentially my information being on SSDI was taken. The concern of, I put money in. It's like I really did work for 27 years before I got ALS. And, the idea of Medicare being cut, it's like, oh my goodness, I would be in one of the special federal volunteers or Dodge leaders is kind of involved with the Dark Enlightenment, the weird stuff and the theory that comes out of Silicon Valley, and calls people like me parasites. Insulting. So all the calls, all the door knocking, all the walking, and in my state, some oil billionaires have definitely supported people into office that may not have the average citizen serving our average citizens, which actually that's what you're supposed to do. You know, we the people are the people that are supposed to be heard for our legislatures. You know, I'm a kid of this, you know, the 70s, you know, the little things that you would watch, Sesame Street and the school rock in the mornings and the little thing, Mr. Bill. Turns out the world doesn't work that way. And when corporations are people too, their voices and their money is a lot louder than an average citizen. So if they undid Roe and they undid Dobbs, perhaps we can undo Citizens United. Not trying to get too political. Some people are cheering. But I'm scared of my Social Security being taken away. I have been fearful that my Medicare was taken away, or could be. Scary. So my nieces came down for spring break. I got to see my niece that lives in San Marcos, and she picked her up to see my aunt, and another cousin came in. So she got to meet her great aunt and her second cousins and all their kids, and it's just something, you know, it's like she was going through it. My sister's, you know, death, she's wearing a shirt from her mother, and we talked about it on the drive back to her college, university. She shared, you know, the emotions going through her for losing her mom. You know, I was, 33, 34 when my dad died. I can't imagine being 19. She's 22, and her birthday's coming up. But it's a lot. I mean, it's just, you know, being there for a family, and that's really the goals of, you know, your life changes. You get, start to progress. You know, I'm so lucky. I'm 5 years in, and October will be 6. I am so blessed to still be here. I am so blessed to still be able to talk. Though with the extra pressures and everything being just so weird in my country, and all the extra pressures, you know, I'm not into fear mongering, and I'm not into sharing suffering like, woe is me, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. There's enough out there, you know. I'm not trying to stoke pity or stoke fears or stoke anything. I'm just sharing my story. So I was really happy to see my aunt. She's undergoing chemo for stage 3 uterine cancer, and that's hard. So making the calls, though, my cousin who she's living with right now is, you know, taking care of their parent. You know, it's Generation X. You know, if we still have our parents, some of us have to actually, you know, take care of them, even though we were the latchkey generation. So that was really special. My aunt was really happy, and she gave me some of her kitchen stuff, the little things, some bread making stuff I can share with my oldest and my youngest. And oh my gosh, as many spatulas and wooden spoons. I was the generation of wooden spoon. Pop, pop, pop. Found the origins of my mother's evangelicalness from my aunt. Stories of my maternal family down in South Texas, you know, crossing the border and shopping for clothes. And my aunt was so horrified. Why would she want to wear one of those traditional skirts? And my great grandmother being like, why don't you want this? So, you know, that, just going through it emotionally and concerned with, you know, potentially having my benefits cut off, you know, the parasite that I am, caused a lot of fear. You know, I had a lot of fatigue. I have ALS, yes. I also have diabetes and heart disease. So one of my medications after the year turned, trying to get through the benefits, started this in October. And it's just been a rigmarole to do things, you know, because the prescription alone is $2,100. When you're on Social Security, that's a little bit much. So I had gone through Simple Fill, and Simple Fill is a wonderful organization here in the States. It's all one word, and they cover multiple medications. And if you're one of the medications they cover, you can contact them and they'll tell you the steps that you need to take. Well, I took those steps and the manufacturer said, no, try for, they have this step of denials. It's playing the dance with medications and all the agencies. It's hard when you don't have an advocate for yourself and you have to be your own advocate. I do have, through Snap to Cure, I do have a care manager. Through Compassionate ALS, I do have a lot of emotional support. But when it comes down to fighting for prescriptions and going through all this rigmarole and doing that is put onto the patients and the families in our country. So went through, applied for Social Security extra help for medication or for prescriptions. And last year I was denied it, but this year we had just the dip in our income that, lovely when inflation, you know, we were doing good. We were down to 3% and now we're rising, and all the tariffs are going to cause more expenses. So we'll see, you know, it's riding through it. Today is a national protest for hands off for Social Security. And that, you know, it's like, I don't have, there's going to be rain. I have electric wheelchairs. You know, I have one travel one and a power chair, which I don't have a vehicle to transport it. But I can't expose that to wet and social political protests. When you have ALS, you know, I definitely don't need tear gas or a billy stick to be, you know, taken to me. And knowing from taking my daughter to volleyball practice yesterday with all the walking, my legs really hurt. So my lower extremities are getting weaker. I have the ride of the spasticity and the waves of the spasticity. And now I'm just having more actual general weakness. So going through the emotional side of that. I mean, I am so blessed. I'm here 5 years after diagnosis. And I have a weird genetic form of it, C9orf72 ALS. And thankfully, I don't have any of the dementia aspects of it yet. Unfortunately, I'm also on gabapentin, so if you notice that I pause in my saying, it's partly that. You know, I wish I could just go off all the medicines, but I could not actually function if I did that. I'm on the highest level of baclofen. I'm on Keppra now, and I have had some significant fatigue. I don't know if that's due to the diabetes and going through all of those rigmaroles, but thankfully it was just this week approved for my Jardiance, which is an expensive diabetes medicine. but that has significantly come down enough to where we can afford it. So it's wonderful while it lasts, and that's scary to me. So living my fears and being a survivor of gun violence, the joys of a interesting childhood that molded me into a strong person. The PTSD, is coming back for some of these. So the dissociation has been hard, kind of dropping away from everything. And that's not healthy. So I was sleeping more and interrupted sleep. And like right now, it is middle of the night. I fell asleep and my body hurt from walking with my daughter's practice. We got there earlier and she's at 12 going on 13. They're interesting. So after practice, she wanted an iced coffee. Got her an iced coffee. I got the new Whataburger banana shake, a couple sips. Diabetes. And I took my insulin, and I'm on my Jardiance and my metformin. So, but my energy has come back. I do get counseling, which helps. So my counselor has told me not to watch the news, do the 24-hour delay. But when the news is all horrifying, and then internationally being told you didn't do what you did, you still don't know what's happening. It's like, no, I actually knew when I got the Bush tax cuts and when Citizens United happened, but there's a lot of apathy, and then there's a lot of gerrymandering. Like this year for the election, LULAC was being active, and the governor or our state attorney, Ken Paxton, how that man's still in his position, I don't know. But he sent DPS, and they took a 70-year-old Abdullah out of her house in her nightcoat, nightgown, robe, and then searched all the records. It's like the abject racism in our country right now. I mean, go scaring little grandmas, go pressuring the Hispanic vote. Awful. It's like the county that voted red down in South Texas is getting one of the processing centers. So, lower SES in South Texas. And coming in for that, I mean, processing people that are actually legally in our country is wrong. Seeing people taken off the street is scary. Being disabled, and for someone that has spoken at the local, state, and federal level, they could come get me. Of course, where they're going to send me back to the state I was born in. As someone that lives in Texas for a country, we've been living in some of these changes that have happened for years. It's been about 20-something years, going on 30 years, we have been under increasingly extremist government. They keep electing a governor that people have called Hot Wheels. I think that's too nice for him. But, and senators that bespoke their lobbies more than they do their people. I wrote one of my senators, one of them, I just am tired of the nastiness back. When you vote in a clown, a Tea Party candidate, if you don't agree with them, there's just this bitterness and ugliness that happens, and that's not what you should treat your constituents like. But with concerns of them cutting the national grants to the NIS and HHS, and what's happening now, grant money that was approved for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and rare diseases has been cut. The study I have been in, which they have devised medications off of that, something like Koya 302, which is so much hope. It's hopefully going through the FDA, but they hired the guy that was encouraging the neurological diseases, hurrying those along, like cancer. Of course, they got the cancer research too. When they treat rare diseases for ALS, the genetic stuff, it could help the sporadic people. Registering with the ALS registry at the CDC is important. There are more people with ALS that aren't registered. It is a smaller but a significant terminal disease that could potentially be treated. My country right now may not be the one to lead the scientific community. My hope is for other places in the world to have that information and continue the fight. I have a progressive neurological motor neuron disease that is terminal. I have put blood, sweat, and spinal fluid into trying to find the monster and hopefully the cure or the treatments for ALS. It's very disheartening that all of that may be lost. And I hope that's shared, that information is shared around the world. I hope that it does make a difference. So it's been big, heavy. It's heavy. You wonder why I haven't been putting videos up. I don't know. There's so much going on. I mean, the world is pulled apart, and there's lots of propaganda active, putting out fear and eliciting, oh, I can't do anything. Now I can't go to the protest today. They'll probably put a video up on my advocacy sites, and that, I mean, it is so disheartening. And the physical facts is, we're under a health warning. The state has activated emergency management. South Texas flooded, and we're going to be having a, it's April, and Texas is having potential snow in North Texas. We'll get cold into the 40s here in Southeast Texas, and there's going to be significant rainfall. So power chairs, electric chairs don't work in that. And my legs won't work with standing that long. Just waiting for the other practices to be over and doing a little walking yesterday hurt. So I probably need to use the electric chair more often when I'm out and stop being so stubborn about it. We can do what we can do. And we have to let go of the fear. Fear doesn't help anything. If you can get angry about it, a lot of it's fear-based. There's rightful anger. There's rightful between right and wrong. And it doesn't matter what political party you're on. There's right and wrong. We pay our taxes. We should be represented, not just the corporations that don't actually pay as many taxes as we do as individuals in the United States. Yes, we pay taxes. I pay taxes. So hopefully that does happen. But I can't, unless it wasn't raining, I can't ruin the electric wheelchair. After I can't use it, it's going to be sent back to Compassionate Care ALS. You don't, when you are borrowing something, you take good care of it. You don't ruin it for others. Because when I'm through with it, that goes back, they'll be able to help somebody else. You know, I don't know. I need to probably put in my will, contact my extremely kind attorney, and figure out who's going to be gifted my power chair when I'm gone. Hopefully that's not for a long time. So last night after the volleyball practice, took my daughter. She wanted some iced coffee instead of, you know, another drink. And then went and got a little taste of a banana shake and a little burger and her another iced coffee. So she was extremely talkative. And you know how kids are when they're, you know, teenagers, you know, that, you know, they get more with their friends. So it was really lovely having conversation and her sharing her art. And then my oldest, my granddaughter, sharing her art. And she had, she's 4. So she's drawing and she's drawing pictures, and she drew a picture of something that looked like the saw. And it's like, ooh, my little Halloweenish granddaughter. So a lot of that stuff, I mean, you know, it's like for me, for Halloween, my parents were divorced. You know, every holiday for the parent we weren't with, I always worried about the other parent being alone. So Halloween was one that no one cared about. I'm artistic. I like to go boogity boogity, you know, scare back the fear that we all have every year. So my Halloween productions kind of go by year. And as I get weaker, they aren't quite as elaborate, though I have a lovely family that helped me continue some of that stuff. But it's kind of like you see it. My little granddaughter's like, ooh, spiders. It's like, some of that stuff must be genetic. So, you know, it's just, and Emma's like, well, look at my art. Things that she draws with her fingers. Wow. And then for me, you know, the art that I would like to do, you know, it's like my hands get spastic, you know, the fine motor is affected more so, not terrible. I've always had terrible handwriting. Should have been a doctor. Retired nurse. But I will do some things with my hands, and then my hands get spastic. If I have an infection, like a urinary tract infection, I'll get extremely spastic. Even now, isn't that weird? You know, it's like you kind of look at the hands, you know, they still work, but it's like they're just not the same as they used to be. You know, it's like the muscles, and you probably can't see this because not everybody looks at things, but it's like the muscles are going away in my hands. It's kind of like the, you know, the ALS changes. So I'm not, you know, I kind of share my story, so it's not all, everything is not all about ALS. It's kind of my experience going through it and how life is going through it, the emotional side. I talk about some of the physical, and, you know, I haven't figured out, and I don't have the camera that you need to do YouTube. I use iPads and other things to upload my videos. I would love to be able to take with and show my walking, though that's probably going to not be walking as much soon. The bottom of my feet, the muscles of my bottom of my feet have changed. I have foot drop in my left foot, so it just kind of clumps away. We'll see. I mean, spasticity is something. So as I come off the inflammation from the diabetes, anything that causes inflammation in your body can probably affect your ALS. This is just my thoughts and experiences. I'm not anyone giving medical advice. This is just for entertainment purposes only. But, and please contact your doctor if you have any questions, or your ALS clinic. And if you're watching this with health anxiety, heart goes out to you. I hope you never experience this, and it's being like a needle in the haystack for having what I have. And ALS is it's a rare disease. So there's probably more of us. Definitely register with the ALS registry. That's important. We need to document as many numbers so we can speak out and possibly get more attention to us. But we'll see how the United States shakes out, how the world shakes out. I wish for good. I wish for hope. I wish for peace everywhere. You know, I'm maybe living in a state where things are going like the United States are going, and still have life here. But it's just hard. I mean, I'm not going to spend time stewing like a frog in a pot. I have used my voice to raise out, being an advocate, is scary. I don't know. It's just like when I sleep, I use the CPAP unless I fall asleep on the couch. I've been sleeping a lot lately. It's almost like the bottom of my ribs are, clamping a lot. And I feel my spine, the muscles around my spine, and just this weird sensation and weakness. I can feel the weakness in my lower extremities. And even walking back into this room to do a video, my walking wasn't great. Luckily, I do know how to fall, but it's a head trauma. You don't want head traumas because you will progress. So just the day in, day out of having ALS is difficult. There's people with ALS or MND have a progressive disease, and there's hopefully many days in between, and each day has a hope for making a memory, having a good conversation like I did with my teenager, hearing how she thinks and what she thinks about, and about her friends, about her ideas to decorate a room, and what's going on in school. Just, special. Talking, someone with PTSD, she was anxious going into the second practice. And of course with me, it's like, don't stop doing that. I may worry. And PTSD is a anxiety disorder. But it's kind of like you have to learn to walk through it. You can't just, and that's what I'm trying not to, and disassociate all the time. Extreme fatigue and dissociating with the current events going on in our country, hitting all those PTSD triggers. So, you have to learn to get through it. And like my granddaughter, my daughter, my little artists, you've got to create. Your life is like art. You have the choice to create it. And you have the choice of clinging to fear, the things, but it's important to speak up for right and wrong. It's important to speak up for what, use your voice while you still have it, and while you're able to. But creating the life you want, letting go of the rumination, letting go of the fear, letting go of holding on to pain and discomfort. It's important, mind, body, speech, I probably should meditate more, prayers. I do feel supported, which is a blessing. But I don't like to share abject, we've had so much going on in the news. The last thing you need to watch is a video is going, boo is me, oh my goodness, But it's just, going through the dregs, and the seesaw, the waves of the ocean. Try not to be pulled down by whirlpools. Every now and then a rogue wave gets you and knocks you off. Just getting back, for my daughters, my millennial daughters, Sprinkle. Ordering things in before prices go up. Got the stamper. She's doing a very sweet baby shower for my second granddaughter. And strawberries and blueberries. My best friend's oldest daughter, I also call her my niece, had a very sweet one for her little girl. So much precious. I mean, when you look at youth and seeing the kids and how precious they are, so cool. I mean, really, just so I have the little table runners that I'm going to press, and they have strawberries. I'm going to press some blueberries in. I told my daughter to look and kind of give me the ideas, and she's like, well, why don't you use Sheen and this and that? And it's like, boy, that's a thing. You tried to use Sheen, and I used Venmo to pay for it. And they're like, show me your account, show me this, show me that. And they actually refunded me my money. I wrote to legal. And I'm not going to show you my bank account numbers, but I have an extra prepaid card that I put on and downloaded the app. Ordered all the stuff, it's coming, and once that does, I'll get rid of it, Who knows if I have malware applied. All of this stuff. So, we'll get that. And my as I was going to say, my millennial daughter, she told me this, and then she sends me stuff from Instagram, and sent me the sign that I need to get. Got the invitations and all the things, that one of the games she wants. Got that. So trying to do the little bits because it's going to be in June. So I can get all this production, but it's like some of the stuff from the Insta, it's like I can't get that color. And I figured out how to do the balloon arch that she wants. Now, whether my hands will do it or I will have help to do it. That's nice. Should meet with her in-laws sometime this month to kind of go over what we have, what we're going to do with that, because it's a dual family one, which is nice. And so I've got all the decor. Her mother-in-law is going to do the flowers. We talked about what to do for the table bank. I've got a box with the baby letters that are white. Of course, it's my millennial daughter. There's going to be a charcuterie board. I love it. It's every generation has their unique. I have hope with Gen Z. Gen Alpha is very, I don't know, Nietzsche kind of existentialism kind of generation. Of course, they, went through the pandemic, how that has affected their thoughts and that. It's like, I don't know, are we having another silent generation? I don't know. My youngest, life is like a rose. Sometimes there's thorns. Her best friend, people and things are not who they seem. It's like, wow. And they were 11. I don't know. And still hope. And still resilience. Yeah, that's a big one. Facing fears and resilience. So, there's a lot of people I love deeply that are going through trauma and tragedies. I'm inspired by the family members I have that are rising up and taking steps day by day. And I hope that they take care of themselves, because, you know, we all go through it. You know, it's about feeding mind, body, and soul, and leaning into being present and not feeding fear, but self-compassion, self-forgiveness, and leaning into the resilience that we all have. So that's what's going on. I mean, what else happened? There's probably 1,000 things that happened, and nothing comes to mind. You know, hopefully today is a good day. Yeah, I've got to get a painting in to another person that's doing fundraising. And I'm just so blessed, you know, breathing, present with family I love, looking at the small things and being grateful, leaning into gratitude is something that is really helpful. Seeing the little things and being appreciative of the little things, because if you look up, it's scary. Believe me, there are people that are paying for propaganda, and people are divisive. They're trying to feed tribalism, feed arguing, and feed that. We have to lean into what's right, what's good, what feeds us, and not what doesn't. So here is today. Enjoy today. Find the beauty in the day. Don't look at the cracks, because there are a lot of cracks. There's kind of like another crack going into the Grand Canyon in our country right now. You can't feed the fears. You can't live on that. That doesn't help you. More stress and mind, body, soul, you know, especially when you have ALS and you're newly diagnosed, it's scary. It really is scary. I mean, you know, looking over the edge of dying is hard. It is a process we're all going to go through, whether you have ALS or you don't. And that is hard. You know, for me, I've been advised to just be present. You know, it's hard. You know, some of the groups I go into, you know, trauma related for ALS, a lot of them are family members. And I don't want to traumatize my family members as much. Now, I have this disease, and losing me, a death, grief is trauma. I've laid hopefully as much down with making things easier than they were for me with my parents. I don't know. It's just as it is. So things are going to be good. We have got the tickets. It's a family thing with my youngest and my husband. We're going to go see Joan Jett and Billy Idol. You know, they're like, oh, I love Joan Jett. They're like Cherry Pop. You know, that song I had it on a children rock thing for my little one. And then my husband loves that song for my daughter. And it's like, let's not look in too deeply in the lyrics, you know. Child of the 70s, the 80s. You know, some of those songs you look back and you're like, eh. And of course, the millennials looking back at the songs, eh. And I'm sure Gen Z looking back at the songs going, that's wrong. I've been, you know, you are offending me. And Gen Alpha is listening to things by song, not artist, but by song. Interesting as it is. So that'll be fun. Today, my husband and I are going to celebrate National Deep Dish Pizza Day and get deep dish pizza. You know, getting some veggie deep dish pizza. My husband's like, oh, my husband and I went to the German festival, celebrate part of my ancestry. Oh, that's funny, ancestry. So, you know, they always change your levels, you know. You know, I have the pilgrims, the indigenous, and all of the waves of immigration. But I always said I was mostly German. German from my dad's side, Scandinavian, English. My mom's side, German, Belgian, and Scottish, Welsh. So I have some of the German Ole and some of the German. And I always said I was mostly German. Well, I'm almost 44.5%, or 0.8, I'm sorry, percent German. So nearly half German. And then, you know, the areas that cover England and part of Germany, you know, Belgium's in there. And of course, Spain, Indigenous America, Sardinia, and Iceland, which, you know, I have C9 or 72 came from, they found it probably related to Scandinavian, you know, see the travel of the Vikings through, you know, Ireland, and I'm a little bit Irish, Ireland and the UK, France, you know, carried it around, and, you know, probably people with Middle East, people that immigrated around the world. You know, there's all of us connected by distantly one ancestor. As much as people are like, I don't think we're the same. It's like, well, you know, you go back, we're all related to, you know, different ancestors. I mean, you know, what, I have 16 set of great-great-grandparents, or is that great-grandparents? No, great-grandparents. Great-great-grandparents. You know, and as they say in South Texas, we're all cousins. And literally I have like, 45,000 cousins. Not all are at risk for this disease. You know, it's like in the study, my sister, youngest sister, we're the last two left of our origin family, has been in the study with me. And she's been my normal. Thankfully, she doesn't have C9 or 72. So they're watching, and if this study continues, they'll watch, which is lovely, you know. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, this year with the artful study, I didn't give spinal fluid. My lower extremities are getting weaker. I don't need to add any inflammation or trauma to that area. So we'll see. I mean, we'll have the concert next month, Cinco de Mayo. A lot of things coming. June will be the baby shower. July, I go see my swallow, do swallow study stuff, and go to Chicago for the recovery Dharma. I do meditations for that, for the friends and family. And that will be fun. You know, family trip. My youngest was inside. She was in utero when she had fresh Luminali's vegetarian pizza and all of the lovely foods of Chicago. So here's hoping Social Security doesn't stop or get things, you know, and only the fraudsters would complain if they don't get their check on time. You know, must be nice to not have to worry about day to day and not have a disease that on average costs $65,000 a year. Must be nice. So all hoping that goes well. You know, I'm not going to feed the fear and worry and worry and worry, because that's what they want me to do. Yeah, rebel since I've been a teenager, even a child. It's part of my character. But I have a lot of family that I love, and I have a lot of people that I love. And I absolutely adore that you spent the time watching this video with me. So please like, subscribe, and remember to find the beauty in the day. Thank you. Bye.